Welcome to Lions News Fan Report, your home for the freshest updates, the hottest takes, and the most exclusive insights on our beloved Detroit Lions. I've got something brewing today that could change how we think about our defensive line moving forward. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one. You know, there's something special happening in Allen Park right now. The front office has been operating like a well-oiled machine, scouting talent that other teams overlook, finding diamonds in the rough, building a roster that's become the envy of the entire league. And as we gear up for another playoff run, the minds behind this organization are already thinking steps ahead. They're watching film, studying tape, identifying the next wave of talent that could keep this championship window wide open for years to come. So here's where things get interesting. While most fans are focused on Sunday Night Football against Philadelphia, while everyone's talking about our current roster and playoff positioning, I've been digging into something that's flying completely under the radar. Something that could have massive implications for how we build this defense in the future. And it all starts with a player who's been quietly putting together one of the most impressive comeback stories in college football this season. Picture this for a moment. A defensive lineman who suffered a season-ending injury, who could have packed it in, who could have called it a career. Instead, he comes back stronger, more determined, more explosive than ever before. He's putting up career numbers across the board: 3 sacks, 26 tackles, a forced fumble, and he's doing it all while playing at one of the most scrutinized programs in the country. This isn't some small school prospect we're talking about. This is a player competing at the highest level of college football, proving every single week that he belongs. Now, I've been following Brad Holmes' draft philosophy pretty closely over these past few years. The man has a type. He looks for players who do their job, who fit the culture, who have that chip on their shoulder. He's not afraid to take chances on players with unique skill sets, players who might not fit the traditional mold, but who bring something special to the table. And when I look at the player I'm about to tell you about, I see all those characteristics lining up perfectly. Let me paint you a picture of our current defensive line situation. We've got talent, no question about it, but we're always looking to add depth, always looking to add versatility, always looking to add players who can create mismatches. Dan Campbell's defense thrives on having multiple pieces that can move around, that can line up in different spots, that keep offensive coordinators up at night trying to figure out blocking schemes. And that's exactly where this prospect comes into play. Standing at 6'5", 285 pounds, we're talking about a legitimate tweener. A player who has the size to line up inside, the athleticism to kick outside, the versatility to be used in multiple packages. These are the types of players that Aaron Glenn loved to work with, and these are the types of players that our current defensive staff continues to covet. Because in today's NFL, you can't just be one-dimensional. You need players who can adapt, who can adjust, who can be moved around the chessboard. And here's where the scouting report gets really exciting. This player just had an outstanding performance against Nebraska earlier this month. A sack, an additional partial tackle for loss, constant pressure in the backfield. Then, in his most recent outing, he added his first career fumble recovery as his team rolled to a dominant victory. We're watching a player who's not just putting up numbers. We're watching a player who's making game-changing plays when his team needs them most. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. We've got bigger needs, right? We need cornerback help, we need to address the secondary, we need to think about the offensive line, and you're not wrong. But here's the thing about building a championship roster. You take the best available talent, you don't reach for need. You trust your board, you trust your evaluations, and you take the player who's going to make the biggest impact on your team. That's how the Lions have operated under Brad Holmes, and that's how championship organizations operate across the league. Let me tell you about his recent tape. Against one of the top programs in the Big Ten, this player showed everything you want to see from a defensive lineman. Explosive first step off the snap, violent hands that can disengage from blockers, the ability to set the edge in the run game, and most importantly, that relentless motor that never stops. He's chasing plays from the backside. He's pursuing ball carriers 20 yards downfield. He's doing all the little things that don't show up on the stat sheet, but that coaches absolutely love. And here's something that really stands out to me: the timing of his best performances. This player shows up in big games. When the lights are brightest, when the competition is toughest, When NFL scouts are watching most closely, he elevates his game. That's not something you can teach. That's not something you can coach. That's an inherent quality that separates good players from great players. And it's something that translates directly to success at the next level. Currently, draft analysts have him projected in the middle of the third round. Now, for a team like the Lions, who are going to be picking late in every round because of our success, the third round is prime real estate for finding impact players. We've seen Brad Holmes work magic in that range before. He's found starters, he's found contributors, he's found players who become core pieces of this roster. And when I look at the value proposition here, when I consider what this player brings to the table versus where he's projected to go, I see a potential home run. But let's talk about fit for a second. How would Anthony Lucas, the USC defensive lineman I've been building up to, actually fit into our defensive scheme? Well, think about the versatility I mentioned earlier. Lucas can play multiple positions along the defensive line. In base packages, he can line up as a defensive end, using his length and athleticism to set the edge against the run. In nickel packages, which is what we play most of the time anyway, he can kick inside and rush from the interior, using his quickness to create one-on-one matchups against guards. And here's where it gets really interesting from a scheme perspective. Our defense loves to create confusion, loves to disguise pressures, loves to move pieces around pre-snap to make the quarterback's job harder. Lucas's versatility would give us so many more options. We could line him up wide, show a speed rush off the edge, then stunt him inside at the snap. We could put him in a two-point stance, make the offense think we're dropping him into coverage, then bring him on a delayed blitz. The possibilities are endless when you have a player with his combination of size and athleticism. Let's talk about his production trajectory too, because this is important. Lucas is coming off a season-ending injury in 2024, and instead of regressing, instead of losing a step, he's having a career year. 3 sacks, 26 tackles, a forced fumble, all career highs. That tells me everything I need to know about his work ethic, his dedication, his commitment to getting better. These are the types of players who succeed in the NFL. These are the types of players who fit the culture that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have built in Detroit. And let me tell you something else that excites me about this prospect. He's a senior. He's been in college football for multiple years. He's seen different schemes. He's played against elite competition. He's been coached up at a high level. There's something to be said for drafting mature players who are ready to contribute immediately. We don't need a 4-year project right now. We need players who can step in, learn the system quickly, and help us win football games in year 1. Lucas fits that profile perfectly. Now, I want to talk about the scouting process for a second, because this is where things get really fascinating. The Lions have scouts at games every single weekend during the college football season. They're watching film, they're taking notes, they're building their draft boards. And with USC playing on Saturday afternoon, you can bet that Lions personnel are going to be locked in on Lucas's performance. This is his chance to show NFL teams what he can do on one of the biggest stages in college football. His matchup this weekend is going to be crucial. He's going up against a solid opponent, and how he performs in this game could significantly impact his draft stock. If he has another dominant outing, if he racks up a couple more sacks, if he continues to show that explosiveness and versatility that makes him so intriguing, we could see his stock rise. And if his stock rises, it might take a more aggressive move from Brad Holmes to secure his services. But based on what I've seen from this front office, if they believe in a player, if they think he's the right fit, they're not afraid to make a move. Let me also address the elephant in the room, our current defensive line depth. Yes, we've got talent. Yes, we've got players who can play, but in the NFL, you can never have too many good defensive linemen. Injuries happen, rotations are important. Fresh legs in the fourth quarter can be the difference between winning and losing close games. Adding a player like Lucas wouldn't be about replacing anyone on our current roster. It would be about adding depth, adding competition, adding another weapon that our defensive coordinator can deploy in different situations. And think about the development aspect too. Lucas would be coming into an organization that has a proven track record of developing defensive linemen. We've seen players come to Detroit and take their game to the next level. We've seen late-round picks and undrafted free agents turn into contributors. Imagine what our coaching staff could do with a player who already has the physical tools, who already has the production, who already has the mindset. The ceiling is incredibly high. I also want to touch on his leadership qualities. As a senior who's overcome a major injury, Lucas brings intangible qualities that don't show up on the stat sheet. He's been through adversity, he's fought through rehab, he's proven he can bounce back from setbacks. These are the types of players who become locker room leaders, who set the standard in practice, who help establish the culture that makes championship teams special. And in a locker room like ours that already has incredible leadership, adding another voice like that would only make us stronger. So here's where we are. Anthony Lucas is a 6'5", 285-pound defensive lineman from USC who's having a career year after coming back from injury. He's versatile, he's productive, he's showing up in big games, and he's projected to go right around where the Lions will be picking in the 3rd round. The fit makes sense from a scheme perspective, from a value perspective, from a culture perspective. And if Brad Holmes and his scouting staff like what they see on tape, don't be surprised if we hear Lucas's name called on draft day with a Lions cap in his hands. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Anthony Lucas would be a good fit for our defensive line? Would you be excited about using a 3rd-round pick on a versatile defensive lineman who can play multiple positions? Or do you think we should prioritize other positions with our mid-round selections? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I love hearing what Lions Nation thinks about these potential additions to our roster. And remember, this is just the beginning of draft season. We're going to be breaking down prospects, analyzing fits, discussing strategies every single week leading up to April. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Lions News Fan Report, hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and share this video with your fellow Lions fans who want to stay ahead of the curve. We're building something special here in Detroit, and I want you all to be part of the journey as we continue to add pieces that can help us bring a championship home. I'll be back soon with more exclusive insights, more breaking news, and more in-depth analysis of everything Detroit Lions. Until then, keep that pride alive, keep believing in this team, and let's keep riding this wave all the way to the promised land. One pride, always.